Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Jeff and today we are going to look at the new War of the Sparks spoilers. So excited for these. And let's go ahead and jump right into this right away. So I do have this just over here on Scryfall, or over here, sorry. And because I didn't want to do an edit because there's so many cards that have been spoiled already, just from the Mythic Invitational and from other sites posting their spoilers already. And we're going to see tons more, but let's jump into these ones right away. Sorry if I need to slow it down a little bit because I've just been having a hard time speaking right. This is like my fourth or fifth time starting to record this already. So anyway, let's just get into these cards. Liliana, Dreadhorde General. 6 of her mana cost, 4 and 2 black, legendary planeswalker. It is a mythic, so there's multiple mythic planeswalkers. There are rares and then there are uncommons, and you can see a difference with each one of these. Let's talk about that first. So with this, you can't see my cursor, unfortunately, but you can see that the mythic planeswalkers have 3 abilities. You know, 2. Tick up, tick down, another ultimate. Rares only have, like you can see a Johnny there, has a tick up and a tick down. So only 2 abilities. And then these uncommon ones, you can see Arlen here, Voice of the Pact, on the green one on the right there, only has a tick down, and that's it. And so pretty interesting what they're doing to keep a difference between the planeswalkers with the rarities as well. So that's what we're looking at right now. So also, all planeswalkers from the set have a static effect, which I think it really adds a ton of value to the planeswalkers and kind of makes them broken a little bit. And so I'm not sure what I think about it, but I'm all for it at the same time, especially with what stuff we have. So let's jump into this. Liliana, Dreadhorde General, we already talked about it a bit. Whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. Broken. Just it's broken. 6 for a mana cost. That is pretty expensive to get out. A lot of times you have stuff being like dying at that point, whatever. But if you can get this out and then, you know, have something board wipe, whatever, you're staying pretty aggressive with zombies, which zombies already are pretty good in this set. You'll see, but pretty good. So also your tick up, you get to create a 2/2 black zombie. Great. Neg 4. Each player sacrifices 2 creatures. Really good. So you do have to sacrifice 2 creatures as well if you don't have creatures. So this can actually be really good in a control matchup as well. Which, I mean, it works pretty well too, just by creating some zombie tokens and then ticking down to get some card draw. Really just a fantastic card. Neg 9, it's ultimate. Each opponent chooses a permanent they control of each permanent type and sacrifices the rest. So if you get to keep 1 land, if you have lands out. If you have 5 enchantments, you can keep 1 enchantment. 10 creatures, 1 creature is all you get to keep. So not quite game ending, but pretty stinking close. So pretty awesome card there. And they do sacrifice it, so it gets through indestructible, anything like that. Pretty awesome. All right, next up, Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge. Probably my favorite card spoiled so far because it really matches. I was a big fan of the Marionette Master deck, and I feel like this kind of has a similar feel. So first off, 6 of our mana costs again. It's a mythic, 4 a blue and a black. Its static ability is creature and planeswalker spells you cast have affinity for artifacts. So that means that if you have 5 artifacts out on the battlefield, then your Hydrate Crisis costs 5 less, basically. So whatever it costs a certain amount less based off the number of artifacts you have, which is, it's the colorless mana. So a Tezzeret would still cost just a blue and a black then if you had 5 artifacts out. Anyway, that's the way I'm understanding it. I haven't actually played Affinity myself because I don't play Modern. I have seen it played quite a bit, so I'm probably the wrong person to talk to. But anyway, the other parts of this I think are insane. So +2 on Tezzeret. It deals damage. It deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of artifacts you control. You gain X life. First off, I love this as each opponent because it does mean that this can be played into commander decks. Awesome card. I think will be pretty powerful in a lot of commander decks as well. If you're playing more, fun style than straight up really aggressive. But at the same time, you can have a massive amount of artifacts in this format. I mean, I'm already thinking of just a really fun Planeswalker deck, having the Karn's Dovin and the other Tezzeret, and being able to tick up and do like 5 to 10 damage pretty easily on turn 6, and then you can still grow to more artifacts. We have treasures in the format right now, so you can even just play a lot of Sailor of Means or something like that can create a lot of treasures along the way. and be pinging in for half their life total, gaining that life back as well. So even if they are at a high life total, you're still getting tons of value. So that's their its tick up. -3, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. That's the one that I feel like is kind of like, okay. Okay, that's all right, I guess. But definitely better that it's going to be ticking up. I kind of think that those should be switched around, honestly. And then -8, exile the top 10 cards of your library. Put all artifact cards from among them onto the battlefield. That's pretty cool. I mean, you're already ticking up to get these, and then if you really just need to have a couple more turns to finish off, I'm thinking if you have Oath of Teferi out as well, you can do that. You can get a ton more artifacts and then tick up and kill your opponent. There's just some really fun things you can do with that. All right, let's go into Ajani Great-Hearted. 4 cover mana cost, 2 of green and a white. Creatures you control have vigilance. You can tick up to gain 3 life, which I think is fantastic. Creatures having vigilance is great. And then you can -2, put a counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each other planeswalker you control. So if you are playing just the other Ajani by itself, I think that's still pretty powerful, getting it closer to the cat, ultimate or whatever with that. And if you're playing multiple planeswalkers, still good, because a lot of planeswalkers are creating creatures right now. So honestly, this actually has a lot of value even in just a planeswalker deck, where it creates loyalty throughout everything. You're gaining life, you're doing well, your creatures have vigilance, so you can still swing in with the creature tokens you're creating and still have blockers to protect your planeswalkers. So I think that this has a lot of value as at a rarity. It's rare and pretty cheap for a lot of loyalty there as well. So I think this is a great card. The one thing is that you are ticking down each time for that, so you do have to make sure you can't do it all of the time, every single turn, but still very, very valuable. Okay, Bolas Citadel. This card, so many of these cards are just insane, and I'm really excited about the insane cards and how insane everything is. Anyway, so 6 of red mana cost, 3 and 3 black, so pretty taxing there. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play the top card of your library. If you cast a spell this way, so first off, it said play, so you can play lands already from the top card from your top of your library. So great value there. You may play the top card of your library. You may cast, if you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its converted mana cost rather than pay its mana cost. So you don't actually have an option there. If you're going to play the top card, you have to pay life to cast it. And then you can tap to sacrifice the 10 non-land permanents. Each opponent loses 10 life. So a really crazy card. It's one of those like combo pieces where you don't have to play the top card of your deck, but if it helps you out, great. You can just go combo off and do insane things. Like this is a commander staple for sure. Decks can just go crazy with Bolas' Citadel here. And then being able to sack and kill an opponent, possibly if you just have tons of lands, like which this gets lands out and play as well. And it could be useful just by doing that, like really. And then having a bomb that can kill, do half of their life total at any time with tons of lands out. I think that this is a pretty crazy card and definitely will see lots of play. Okay, next up, let's just going down the list here. Dread Horde Invasion. So Dread Horde Invasion enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and amass 1. So amass is a new mechanic that just came in. So put a +1/+1 counter on an army you control. If you don't control one, create a 0/0 black zombie army creature token first. So that is what Amass does, is that if you don't have a zombie army, then you get to create a creature and you get to put a certain amount of counters on it based off whatever the Amass was. And there's a lot of cards in this format right now that are showing Amass. So your zombies are going to get pretty broken pretty quick. This does Amasses at the beginning of your upkeep. You do lose life from it, but the last part of this text makes this card, it is a win condition all in its own. Kind of like Dawn of Hope, I feel like. Whenever a zombie token you control with power 6 or greater attacks, it gains lifelink until end of turn. So if you get, it takes 6 turns, you lose 6 life, all of a sudden you have a 6 power zombie, and it can swing in with lifelink and just be a very powerful zombie all on its own. It has lifelink. It only gains it until end of turn, so you don't have it as a blocker that gains life as well, but still pretty powerful card. And I mean, I don't want to dive too deep into each one of these cards because I feel like we're going to spend tons of time if we do that. So really good. It is a game-ending card all by itself. So let's get into Ignite the Beacon. So 5 mana cost instant. Search your library for up to 2 Planeswalker cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. Really good card. It is instant speed, which I think is fantastic. With all the Planeswalkers coming out right now, I think this is actually going to be a very useful card. It's basically 1 mana more for a Chemist's Insight that tutors up your winners. You know, like even just in the Esper control deck right now, you got to go find your Kaya and your Teferi if you didn't have them already. And there's just in the Mythic Invitational, so many opportunities where people would have loved to do that. That I think this is going to be a playable card. I'm not sure where it's going to if it's going to actually fall into the format right away, but it's going to be a card that will see play, I think, in decks at some point. Where it is or whatever, I'm not sure. Anyway, so let's get into Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. And another just insane broken card. All right, so 4 converted mana cost, 1 and 3 blue, so very taxing on the mana there. But this also is a card that doesn't need to be played on turn 4 really ever. So if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. So it's basically like a Laboratory Maniac is the card that if you were to lose by milling yourself out, instead you win the game, which is a super fun card, and this is definitely going to see play. So target player puts the top 2 cards of the library into their graveyard, and you get to draw a card. So you can mill yourself here and draw a card with this. You can also target the opponent if you are going to be just on the mill plan, like milling them. So the deck that I could see this in is a Drowned Secrets type of deck where you are mono blue, Drowned Secrets, playing a ton of blue spells really quickly, milling yourself. If you don't end up finding the Jace, you can just start milling them like crazy as well. This Jace even helps out with the milling, which I think is pretty powerful. You get to draw cards and get to keep playing more stuff. You can also -8 to draw 7 cards. Then if your library has no cards in it, you win the game. So this kind of sounds redundant because it's saying again that you win the game if you have no cards in the library, but this is if you have to remove Jace. So you play it when it has 8 loyalty and you remove Jace, you still have that static effect for that turn, which I think is perfect. So you draw the 7 cards, and then if you were to draw all the very last few cards, you still win the game. So awesome card there. Ravnica at War, 4 mana cost, sorcery, exile all multicolored permanents. Nothing else we really say there. It's broken. It's going to be insane. I think that there's a lot of decks. If anything, this card alone might make people want to play more monocolored decks, which I think is going to be interesting. I do think that it's very interesting too that a lot of like Amass or things that are creating tokens, whatever, it doesn't kill a lot of the tokens that the Planeswalkers create. And so while it can destroy a lot of Planeswalkers themselves, anything like that, I do think that there's just a lot of things that it doesn't hit. So I think this is a card that we'll see a lot of play in sideboards. Depending on what's in the meta, it actually will shape what could be in the meta, because this could be something that just straight up destroys certain decks, and so you can't play those decks. And so it is going to change what we'll see play in the meta, but I'm not exactly sure how yet. All right, Time Wipe. Return target creature you control to its owner's hand, then destroy all creatures. So it's a board wipe that still protects something of yours, which I think is perfect in a control deck, which makes me not like it because I don't usually like control, but pretty awesome card. It is 5 converted mana cost, so just like Cleansing Nova, just like Fumigate, definitely a great board wipe. The colors work great for pretty much any deck that's playing board wipes, except maybe Orzhov or whatever, but they can splash blue very easily for this kind of card. And anyway, it's going to be a great card, going to see lots of play. It lets you actually have a creature heavy or a creature based control deck, playing Nezahals or playing something like that to actually still have board wipes. So I think it's really good. Whispering Brutality, another semi-board wipe, I guess. So amass 2, then the army you amass deals damage equal to its power to each non-army creature. So again, you have one army that is amassing, getting bigger and bigger. If this, by itself, this does 2 damage to everything. So like a Fiery Cannonade, Pyroclasm, which is already good. It's already very, very good. It's 4 curve mana cost for it, so a little expensive, not quite at the same price as a fiery cannonade, but if you have, you know, a 10/10 zombie by this time or something like that, which there's ways to create those in this format, then this just wipes the board and you have a massive creature left over that can swing in that turn. So it can be a very game-ending card, really. The other thing too with this is if you have Death Baron out and gives your zombies Death Touch, this is just a board wipe with Death Baron out. And so you could just wipe a really massive board with that and do some really fun stuff with it. All right, Johnny's Pride Mate back again, 2 for mana cost. There is an important change with this card. Instead of you may put a +1/+1 counter whenever you gain life, it's just put a +1/+1 counter on it. And I think the big reason that they changed that is because it was so annoying to have to click confirm on Arena. So that's a change for Arena that really helps, where it might hurt you in normal play, like with tabletop play, because sometimes you do want to keep it below in limited, just so it doesn't get hit by removal. But now you just have to deal with that, and it's just going to put counters onto a Johnny's Pride Mate, and will be so much better for arena play. And I actually like that they're making changes like this. I think it's a very smart move by Wizards to do that. All right, we are not even close to halfway, and all right, but we're gonna get 2 quick ones. I'm gonna start going a little bit quicker through these. All right, Arlen, Voice of the Pact, 6 for mana costs. It's a uncommon planeswalker. Each creature you control that's a wolf or a werewolf enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter. So that's great. I'm not sure if there's a ton of wolves or werewolves in the deck or in the format so far. I'll have to go see if there are more, but can be pretty interesting all by itself there. And then you can also create a 2/2 wolf creature token, which actually is going to be a 3/3. And so, I mean, if you think of this like a History of Benalia, you get 2 creatures on turn 3. It takes a few turns to give you 2 creatures, and that's pretty good. With this, I know the 6 for mana cost makes it a lot worse, but at the same time, played on turn 6, you get 3 creatures, 3/3/3s over the course of 3 turns. And that's if you don't have any other effects, like with a Johnny to be putting more counters onto it or loyalty counters. So anyway, it's a pretty cool card, I think, altogether. All right, this is probably my second favorite card in the format, is Emergence Zone, which can tap to add a colorless mana, and then you can pay 1 to sack it. You may cast spells this turn as though they had flash, and it's just any spell as though they had flash. So basically pay 2 mana, because you're gonna have to use this to tap down as well to play anything else you want to this turn with flash, and you have to get rid of the Merchant Zone. But it's not a legendary land, so you can play multiple of these. And so the deck that I want to put this in is something like Tezzeret, where you have affinity for everything already, so everything costs like nothing, and then you can flash everything at the end of their turn and just have a massive turn on the end of their turn. And it's just broken. I think this is going to see play in every single format. It's an instant inclusion in every commander deck. So honestly, hold on to these if you can, because they're going to be it's just a broken card. It's really, really good, and I like it. I don't think it changes it so much, because anyway, it's just going to be a really good card altogether. All right, Flux Channeler, 3 convert mana cost, human wizard. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, proliferate. So proliferate is back. I do think that this has some play. Unfortunately, it is easy to remove. It's an uncommon. So overall, good card. We'll see. This is one of those cards that can break certain decks, or just make certain decks go really crazy, but not necessarily going to be seen in tier 1 play, I don't think. But choose any number of permanents you can and or players, then give each other choose any number of permanents and or players, then give each another counter of each kind already there. So that's what proliferate does, is that you choose any number of those ones, get to put more counters onto them. That includes planeswalkers. So this is a way to get your planeswalkers up really quick, which, I mean, if you have this out with, I don't know, with any planeswalker that has a big ultimate and just play ops a ton of times, or non-creature spells, things that could come back multiple times, I mean, you can ultimate any planeswalker pretty quickly, which is broken in a way, but at the same time, this can be removed pretty easily. All right, Interplanar Beacon. Whenever you cast a planeswalker spell, you get to gain 1 life. It taps for colorless mana. You can basically pay 1, tap it, and you get to add 2 mana of different colors. Spend this mana only to cast Planeswalker spells. This actually is really good at any Super Friends deck, which I do think we're going to be seeing some sort of Super Friends deck. So definitely going to see play as a 1 or 2 of in, I think, like more control-y decks, and then maybe as a 4 of in Super Friends decks. So definitely going to see play. I think that the gain life is definitely relevant, and to be able to fix your mana, like to play a Sarkhan Fireblood as well as a Teferi in the same deck, just really, really good, I think. And so not a bad card there at all. All right, Invade this City. Invade this City is insane. So 3 converted mana cost, sorcery, amass X, where X is the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. So you get to put X plus 1 instant counters onto a new creature if you don't have it. If it's already a 3/3 or 4/4, you get to possibly just put out, you know, make a 13/13, because we've already seen with the Drake's decks that they can get pretty insane. They do have more evasiveness with this. But this with the widespread brutality is, man, it can just be really, really crazy. So I think that this card is definitely going to see play. I think it's going to see play more as like a 1 or 2 of in a Drake style deck rather than completely built around it. I think that any deck that's going to be playing more on the zombie side might splash blue to play this as well. But I feel like they're not going to be playing as many instants or sorceries to actually make it worthwhile, unless they're all in on Amass cards, which seem to be all instants and sorcery. So, or sorceries, I guess, so far. But anyway, I'm really not sure about this card, where it's going to see play, but I do think it's going to see play. It's gonna be a really fun deck. All right, next up we have Omnixlis the Hate Twisted. 3 and 2 black, 5 mana cost, Planeswalker, uncommon. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Omnixlis the Hate Twisted deals 1 damage to that player. So here's another way that we can maybe be playing ways to make the opponent draw a card and still do a lot. So this actually with Expansion Explosion can be really broken, where we do, you know, 10 damage to them and make them draw 10 cards and they're dead. Yeah, so they will probably, if we already got this out, they might have drawn a few turns already and lost a lot of life. So pretty cool. I like these uncommon Planeswalkers because they aren't so game ending that they're going to draw a lot of attention or have people attack them right away, where it's like they don't get as much value as a normal Planeswalker does, your typical Planeswalker that we've been seeing. So they may not be attacked right away, but they get just a static effect like an enchantment almost that is just really good. You can also neg to destroy target creature. Its controller draws 2 cards. So we get to destroy it. They also get to take 2. We do make them draw 2 cards, which is still a downside to make other people draw cards, of course. So I'm interested with this deck, what opponent is, what really how well it does. I could either see this be a really broken card that some way people find to just make it work, or it's just kind of bad. So we'll see. Paradise Druid, 2 group mana costs, Elf Druid. It has hexproof as long as it is untapped, and it can tap to add 1 mana of any color, a 2/1. So it does die to Chain Whirler type effects, things that do 1 damage to everything. There are quite a few of those, but it's hexproof as long as it is untapped. And I think that this is actually a really good replacement for, like, I like the Incubation Druid, but a lot of people are running Shocks, everything like that, so it dies pretty quickly. And this is basically a way to make sure that you hit the thing that you wanted to play on turn 4 early, or turn 5 or something like that. You know, like this, it's hard to deal with, where, you know, you get value out of it before they can shock it, basically. And by the time that you are playing the bigger things, they tend to put more priority on those things rather than your mana dorks. And so I think this is definitely going to see play. Honestly, I think this could see play throughout all formats as well. I think it's just a really good card. The fact that it taps for mana of any color is very, very relevant with this, and having hexproof very relevant again. So definitely a good card here. All right, next up we have Tibalt Rakish Instigator. And so 3 convert mana cost, Planeswalker, uncommon. Your opponents can't gain life. Great in a red deck. I think this will see play a lot more in like sideboards. Although sideboards are kind of, I'm not sure if Arena is kind of going to be taking over. Everything's going to be best of 1. So sideboards might not be a thing. So this is definitely like a one of in a mono red deck. Opponents can't gain life. You can -2 to create a basically a fiend or whatever. The 1/1 red devil creature token. Whenever this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. I think it's Footlight Fiend is the one that's played often now, and it has seen value. Like you can trade off with something and still ping something out. So this is good against mono white aggro type of decks or very aggressive decks. It's, you know, it can hit planeswalkers as well. Opponents can't gain life, which is really good against really good for really aggressive decks. So I think this will definitely see play. The amount of copies it will have in red decks, I'm not sure though. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. All right, Tybalt's Rager. So we do have like pretty much every planeswalker we have, which they said there will be 37 planeswalkers, not 36. And there's a creature that goes along with it or something else that goes along with it. So Tybalt's Rager, 2 permanent cost, Devil. Whenever it dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. You can pay 2 to give it +2/+0 until end of turn. I think it's great for limited. It really is a pretty good card for limited. I'm not sure it'll quite see play in standard, but I mean, giving +2 to something is not terrible. I think as long as we still have mentor abilities in the format, like any kind of that effect, they're going to be wanting to go forward, like the Goblin Mentor that can do it still. So I'm not sure if that one will see play. The fact that it's a 1/2, I don't know. It's not terrible. Definitely a good card in limited though. All right, we are coming to the end here, which it's good for me because I'm not sure I can handle this much more, guys. But Vraska Swarm's Evidence, and I like that we are seeing that there's the dual cost for this, or like the multicolored color cost here. So 2 in either 2 black, green, whatever, any combination of black and green for those last 2. And this is an uncommon planeswalker. Whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals damage to a player or planeswalker, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. So I do think that there is a Death Touch tribal possibility deck out there that can be pretty aggressive with Cavalcade of Calamity right now, and this even lets you play a 3-color deck with a lot of aggressive stuff by being multicolored. So I think that there's a pretty good chance of a fun deck here. You -2 create a 1/1 black assassin creature token with Death Touch, so you get to create your own Death Touch creatures, and then whenever this creature deals damage to a planeswalker, destroy that planeswalker. So it's already a better 1/1 Death Toucher, because a lot of planeswalkers in the format, it just immediately kills any planeswalker. So I do think that there is a deck built around this that is possible. I'm not sure how good it's going to be though. I do think that this could also see play just in a Death Baron zombie deck, where all of a sudden all of your zombies, whenever they deal damage to a player or a planeswalker, get counters as well. So I think that this actually could see play as a 1 or 2 of in the zombie Amass deck that is already wanting to give a bunch of zombies Death Touch and stuff. So some pretty fun stuff you can do there. Okay, Arlen's Wolf. So we already had Arlen before. Arlen. 3 mana cost Wolf. It can't be blocked by creature with power 2 or less, and it's a 3/2. Just good card in limited. I think that not being able to be blocked and a kind of early game possibility to do that, you can be very aggressive, like in a Gruul format or a lot of stuff. So I do think it's an okay card for limited. We'll see how it goes. I like the new lands here, so you guys can see that as we're going through this. Herald of the Dreadhorde. It's a common card, 4 mana cost, zombie warrior. So there actually is a zombie here that has a mass. So whenever it dies, it amasses 2. So I think this is actually a pretty good card. The 4 mana cost, so this would be better if it was a 3 mana cost, of course, but at that point it would almost be rare, between uncommon and rare. So bringing it up to 4 to be a common card, I think this still has a lot of value. So 3/2, whenever it dies, you get to create another 2/2 zombie token. So it's in the type that you're trying to do, you're going for. It's a good card. If you already have a big zombie, it dies, and as a good blocker, it makes your big creature even bigger. So I do think that this actually is an okay card. The 4 mana cost, we'll see if it actually sees play, but not terrible. All right, No Escape is the next card here. Counter target creature or planeswalker spell. If that spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard and scry 1. I do think this will actually see play. I've heard a lot of different people saying back and forth whether or not it's going to see play. I'm just thinking, if you are playing a control deck, a control matchup, especially in best of one, where you're not sure if you're going to run up against mono red or Esper control, like just in the format that we have right now, this is absolutely something that people would play because it gets the same Scry 1 type ability that you would have with Surveil. Sinister Sabotage being used for sure for that type of reason. And the biggest threat in control a lot of times is their planeswalkers. You don't get to counter their counters, you don't get to counter a lot of other stuff, but you at least get to counter the main threat that they have in their deck, so you can hold on to it for that reason. Or if you're up against an aggressive deck, you get to play the target creature. So I think in best of one, this will see a lot more play than it does in best of three. But best of one, I think this is a pretty staple card to have a 1 or 2 of in most decks. So, or most control decks at least. Nyxlis Cruelty, 3 Chromaticos instant, target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn. If that creature would die this way, exile it instead. I think it's a pretty good removal spell. Relentless Advance, 3 Chromaticos, Amass 3, just straight up Amass 3. Create a zombie for 3. If you already had a zombie, you get 3 counters onto a big massive zombie army. So I think it's a good limited card. I think that's the only place it's going to see play. Vraska Finisher, 3 Chromaticos. Whenever Vraska Finisher enters the battlefield, destroy target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. So you can swing in with the 1/1 at Teferi, play this, it dies. So I think that this could see play depending on the format. I think that's one of those, like, it's a format dependent card, whether or not it's going to see play, but still a 3 mana, 3/2 still is relevant. It's a good card. It has an ETB effect. If we have ways to double up ETB effects again, that could be really, really good. Anyway, that is it for today's video, guys. Sorry, I was really kind of falling apart there at the end. My jaw is like hurting from talking so much because I've recorded, I think, 3 other videos today. So many things happening right now, and I'm done. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. I said that already. All right, bye. Thank you.